something bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route to do. We the people are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited.
Ooh, put myself up there and it'll work a lot better. How are you, folks? Stu, stop whinging. Now you can listen. Good man. I'll have to go back to find out what your whinge actually was. Shout out to any man who survived the family court system without $100,000 or $1 million. Is that? I think that's $1 million. I don't think there is justice in the family court system in this country. And any man who's caught up in it, I feel for, particularly if you have, and women, I guess, are caught up in this too, from the other perspective, but you mainly hear about it from the men's perspective, and it seems to be something that's been weaponized, particularly in Victoria. Women have been incentivized to remove themselves, or I should say remove their partner from their families completely. And in a lot of cases, it breaks the men trying to prove their innocence of what they've been accused of, and they don't get to see their children in many cases. And even in cases where the family court has ruled in the man's favour to be able to gain access, the woman, for whatever reason, doesn't allow it, and there doesn't seem to be any way forward from that. I know many men who are in this position, and most of them, sadly, are in Victoria. There are a number in Queensland, but Victoria, for mine, is the worst family court system in the country for a variety of reasons. The Department of Child Services, or whatever they're called in Victoria, can just tell you some interesting people running that department. Very interesting. Soulless people, I would go to say. Spazza, first in tonight, mate. Good to see you in. G'day, Andrew. Did you send me a message today about me calling, or you calling, or there being a call of some kind? I don't know, Andrew. I was flat out today, so today wasn't the day. G'day, Stu, I've already spoken about. And Spaz, the lovely Donna's in the house, the Sabinator. Tony, I trust you are well. Jesus, some interesting things you guys are talking about in there. G'day, Judith. DM, the lovely Connie. I hope you are well, darling, and your other half is just as well. Dave O, the lovely Margot. Hello, Chaos. G'day, Pegs. The lovely Maria. Katrina. SR, I haven't seen you in a little while. Angie, lovely to have you in, and always happy to have your contributions. The lovely Katrina and Denise. Good to have you all in. Did I see a blue line in there anywhere? Wow, looks like we don't have a moderator at all in tonight, so shit, look out. I think Vince is in a meeting, and Sunflower, Aussie Sue, and Michelle must be busy off doing other things, so behave. You've got me tonight. That usually doesn't go well if I'm left in charge of that. So just be prepared. All right. How goes life, the universe, and everything with you guys? Have you had a fun time? Yesterday, I was on my way to the dentist appointment, and me and dentists, bit of a thing, very nervous about going and always looking for an excuse not to turn up. And then the phone rings, and the dentist gave me the excuse not to turn up. They had an emergency roll up and weren't going to be able to fit me in. So there you go. But I did begin and had my first little piece of training with QSI yesterday afternoon. Or late yesterday evening, and I would like to thank the two people involved. I probably won't name them here unless you've watched the other show. You'll know that Izzy is one of them, but just wanted to thank them for the time that they've taken so far. And for those of you who are shock, horror, gasp, Carl's doing the training. And these people are usually the same people who are shock, horror, gasp. You're speaking to Emily, who is hang on, let me get the quote exactly right. A proven scammer. I'm still waiting for the proof of the proven part of scammer. I understand all of the points that are being raised so far, at least, by those who claim QSI is a great scam. I have spoken about my reservations and how it would look exactly like a long-form scam to some people. It would also look very, very credible to others. And until we see more of the system, and I actually understand more of the system, I'm at a loss to really explain it in great depth as to how it works. What I do understand is that you can't lose anything off something you've bought unless you try and sell it at a loss. That hasn't been the advice, I don't believe, that QSI offer when it comes to their ICOs. Their advice is to hang on to them and wait for the liquidity or the money to flood into them, at which point there will be a massive change, a quantum shift, if you like, in the way the financial system works, and all this will become very easy, very possible. So I need to learn more about it, so I'm prepared to do a bit more of that training. For those of you that are in the QSI chat rooms, I will pop in from time to time, but I don't have the time that many of you have to sit in those rooms and contemplate the things being put forward and the ideas being put forward, which I must say, having some access to some rooms, are wonderful. Like some of the, I can't think of the word right now. Isn't that shocking? But I'm going to call them good programs, initiatives that are being put together. Everything from small wellness centers to massive things to look after people, to look after animals, to care for those in our community who require it, from life born till death, if required. These humanitarian projects that QSI are working on in the background, based on their belief that the money is coming into the system and that this money will be available to do humanitarian things for. Now, those ideas, some of those ideas are just amazing. And I've got to say, Izzy's got a couple of her own that will certainly help change the face of Australia. And I'm sure there are many others that will have those humanitarian ideas that will benefit us all. And the nice thing about all that I've found, at least in my very limited exposure, is that it's all focused on we the people, on us. It's not focused on, here's my idea, I'm going to sell something to you, or I'm going to make something off you. That's not how this works. But like I say, I have a very limited understanding, and it's hard to pull something apart if you don't really understand it. You need to know how things are put together. And my dad would tell you, if he was still alive, that I was very good at pulling things apart, and needed a little bit of improvement on putting them back together, as quite often I had spares left over, which not real good when you're putting motorcycle or lawnmower or old engines back together. And that's how you learn. That's how I told him it works. But yeah, anyway, moving on. Interesting things. Oh, Denise, yes. Well, I'm going to mention this at some stage. Yes, Commonwealth Bank cancelling cash. Yes, the government does appear to be supporting that idea. There is a very large deficit in this country between the desire for cash and the availability of cash. Now, the Commonwealth Bank have been scathingly stupid in the stance they appear to have taken. They have sent an email out to many people, obviously account holders with the bank, that is asking them 4 main questions, including how did you make your wealth? Do you have cash at home, and why? Why do you have third-party transfers and interactions? And there was another one. And if you don't give us the answer to all of these questions, then we are going to deny you access to your accounts. We're going to deny you access to your money. Now, pretty horrendous. This is a video of a guy explaining, I think this is the right video, of a guy explaining exactly what happened to him when he went into the bank.
Why I think we might be on the edge of a bank bail-in. I've had a few people, and even myself, tried to transfer some money to someone to help someone overseas, and I've done that before, and the bank locked it off. And I called the bank, and they're like, "Oh, well, the big interview. What's it for? Who's it going to? Where'd it come from?" It's all none of their business. They're making it so difficult to transfer funds. I have a friend that sold his house and is taking that money out of the bank, like a previous video some of you suggested anyway. And as he's doing that, the bank is locked his account. He tried to transfer some money to his wife's account. They locked that off. He had to call the bank, and the bank was, "What's the money for? Where did it come from?" He said, "It came from me, from one of my other accounts to here, to my wife's account with me." And they refused to do it. He ended up having to get onto the bank manager on the phone, the supervisor, and finally got them to agree that he was allowed to have access to his money. I know of others that are doing the same thing. The money's just been locked off, and they try to get it, they can't get it, and it becomes a real issue to try to get it. So I asked myself the question, why are they doing that? And I believe it's a bank bail-in. I think we're on the edge of a bank bail-in. And I'm suggesting that if you have significant funds in a bank, you might need to have a think about what you're doing here. You try and get it out if you're in Australia, and watch what's happening. About to share video on the US. Another 3,000 banks have closed. They're closing ATMs in Australia. They're closing branches. They're doing the same in the US. They are driving us into having a CBDC. They are about to crash our currency. Our currency, I believe the US currency, is already in a free fall. It is collapsing. It's not when it collapses. It is collapsing. It's just people are looking and going, well, I look at the exchange rate, it's not that bad. And I'm like, give me a break. It's manipulated. Those people own the exchange rates. I was in Australia 20 years ago, and I went across the US, and we had major problems in those 20 years of exchange rates, and they stayed pretty consistent. And it's manipulated. And I traded in the Forex once, and it's manipulated. I got out as soon as that became very obvious. I'm sure there's people who have made money in that. This is not about one currency. This is about the system collapsing. The US system drives the world. And as that system is broken, they are telling us. They're not hiding it. We've brought another system in. We have brought in the CBDC. Biden is a WEF member. The WEF is bringing that in. America's currency is going to be WEF-controlled, central bank digital currency. So is Australia. We have it here already, ready to go. They're already doing, cards out on the street that people can use. They are coupling the CBDC to cash, and then we are going to find that they will decouple the CBDC from the cash as the cash goes into a hyperinflation free fall, and the CBDC is pegged to the rest of the world. It's a global one world currency from a one world government. Klaus Schwab's words and the words of the BRICS. If you haven't looked up BRICS, look it up. It's we're in a multipolar world. BRICS is part of the WEF. Multipolar world. The IMF has a coin, Unicoin or something they're calling it, they've released. The CBDC for there. There is a CBDC ready to go in your country. Globalism is knocking at our door. The currency is about to go. Wake up. Go and try and get your money out of a bank here in Australia. And if you've got any significant amount or not even a significant amount, and you will get interviewed and you will get a hard time, because I believe a bank bail-in is on the way.
Yeah, so that's a little bit older. Obviously, things have changed a little bit on the CBDC front, and as Ride the Spiral has said, Trump has said no to a central bank digital currency and derivatives thereof. Now, just step back to QSI for one moment, and this is in line, what we've just heard is in line with a lot of what they're saying, that some form of digital currency is coming our way. If there is a central bank, and there will be some form of a central banking system, will it be a cabal-owned one, like it has been for the last 300 plus years or more? No, it won't. In theory, it will be much more regulated, much more accessible, much freer and open, and certainly much more transparent, and every transaction trackable through the blockchain. Stellar being the backbone to it all, and this is what QSI is, the Quantum Stellar Initiative. Now, a little bit of background as I remember it from QSI was that it was set up, the initiative was set up to educate people on how the new banking system would work and to beta test a number of the programs and things going forward. Some of those coders were involved in other aspects of the financial coding that has evolved over the last 5 years to what is currently running in tandem with the fiat system, and is, in theory, cleaning out and identifying all the illegal money in the fiat system, all the theft and all that sort of stuff. So the banks, obviously, very keen to drive us to a CBDC, and the Commonwealth Bank do have their own digital currency. I'm wondering if it's called the CBD, the Commonwealth Bank digital currency, but the ANZ and the NAB have theirs. I'm not completely sure. I'm gathering that Westpac do, and those affiliated, very closely affiliated, if not owned by those banks, the smaller ones, the St. George's and that kind of thing. So watch this space. But in any future that I'm hearing from others at the moment, there does seem to be, to a greater or a lesser extent in some of these predictions, a digital currency that will be our way forward in the future. There is no way to avoid it. And of course, there is no way to not track it, not have it be 100% transparent and trackable, which will mean that the cash economy will, at some point, whether it's in our lifetimes, and that's what they're aiming for, will disappear completely. That leads me into the next point. If you don't have a great deal of the folding plastic stuff, then and you're banking on an influx of it at some point, maybe from your super account, then there is things happening in the super world at the moment that you might want to be aware of. Now, admittedly, this is going to affect a very small portion of the population as it currently stands. But if you happen to have over $3 million in your super account, they're about to attempt to change laws and claw back some of that money. When I say they, I'm talking about the Labor government. Now, the Labor government are also making changes regarding superannuation that affect the young people today, who, when you're 20 or 22 years old and you're just getting into one of your first jobs in life and they're actually paying you a reasonable wage and they're paying super and all the good things like they're meant to do, you don't really think much about it because retirement is a very, very, very long way away. And it's amazing. I'm on the verge of turning 60 at the end of this year. And I remember the conversation that my father had with me about superannuation just before I started my first job, and how important it was that I start up an account that I just put money into every week from this job, which I think at the time was getting me $110 a week for 5.5 days work. And I obviously found better things to do with it. It's probably the easiest thing to say. It's a great deal of wisdom my father attempted to pass down to me. No wonder he died a very frustrated man. I don't know how I got onto that story, but anyway, the CBDC, I don't think it will be a central bank that's a bad thing. If it is a CBDC, central bank, I think that banking system will have changed significantly. The entire financial system will have shifted into the quantum realm. And what does that mean? Quantum is such a great word, and I get lost on trying to explain quantum to you because the next word that usually follows is entanglement. And then you go down a quantum entanglement rabbit hole, and I don't think I've got the smarts to quite follow that. I'm probably better down the spiritual rabbit hole when it comes to that kind of thing. But I think in the future, we are definitely going to have something like that in our wallet. What form that wallet takes will also be interesting. Whether or not it will be a chip in our hand that we beep, or it'll be a card in a bit of dead pig that we carry around in our pocket. That's what the future holds, at least at this juncture. But I feel certain that at some point they're going to try and get an interface directly from us. And maybe the jibbity jab was exactly what the body needed to begin that process, the conductive process. All things that we are interested in exploring. J1, Social Security already using a digital currency. Same as cross-border payments. Yeah. Yes, that's very true. One of the things that we were talking about the other night when it came to, when Vince and Mark were on, Mark was referring to exchange rates, and my understanding is that once this huge financial change happens from fiat to rainbow currency, if that's what it is, then there will be no exchange rates. A dollar will be a dollar will be a dollar because it will be backed by gold or silver. And don't forget, gold and silver is a very useful thing to have if you're worried about central bank digital currencies, because then you can control how much money they can stop giving you. And that is exactly what the Commonwealth Bank is doing at the moment. They're refusing people access to their own money unless you can somehow justify it. Now, I would imagine 95% of those people who had to justify access to their own accounts, once they gained that access, closed them immediately, withdrew everything and moved to another banking institution that, at least at this point in time, isn't asking them how they make their wealth, what they spend their wealth on, why they want to transfer money, who they're transferring it to, and for what reason is it being transferred. All these things that your bank has absolutely no business knowing. However, with a CBDC, they won't have to ask you. All they'll need to do is be able to look at the blockchain, check the ledger, and they will see exactly where your funds went. Will that be a problem? I guess if you're buying illegal stuff, it will. Will they be able to claw it back? Well, some tell me they can, some tell me they can't. I'm not completely sure, but we'll see. This is a new twist, Kev. Worked for a bloke today who's telling me that he went to his bank to deposit money he could not use the bank teller. He had to deposit it himself through their machine, had all sorts of trouble. Well, I'll have to be honest. They're probably employing people who don't know how to count money. or operate the machine that counts the money. That's probably a better way of doing it. The instructions for operating that machine are possibly written in English, and that could well be beyond the people who are trying to do it. Mr. Bill, QSI, yes, I understand. QSI is not stellar. I've never, and I hope I haven't given that inference. That was not my intention. I've never associated QSI and Stellar together, other than QSI, the Quantum Stellar Initiative, seems to be, from my knowledge and from the people I've spoken to and you've heard from, they do seem to have a very great connection. And part of what I am doing, and we'll do a little bit later on tonight, is going through the QSI proofs. Now, what this does is it uses real-world news and information and dates to confirm things that QSI had been predicting going back some time. Now, I haven't been through this yet. I look forward to having a look at it and seeing how those proofs work, and then I'm going to be tested on it, apparently. So I'm going to have to try and take them in. Now, this is something that I'm very keen to explore, and I'll be very keen to test those proofs. So I think this is all a good thing. The fact that we are always leaning towards some kind of digital currency concerns the crap out of me, but it only concerns the crap out of me if I've actually got fiat currency in a bank somewhere. And now I don't have to worry so much about this shit. I've got to worry about whether or not the bank's going to let me access the $100 I have in the account. Because at the moment, sure, it's probably thousands and thousands of dollars. They want to know why you're sending $5,000 overseas, or 10 or 20 grand to buy a car. They want to know the ins and outs of a duck's arsehole. But for $100, oh, well, he just needs to go shopping. They're probably not going to worry about that. But eventually they'll start looking at all that kind of thing. And if they don't like what you're buying, they'll stop you. That's where things like the Ainsley rounds, the 1/10 silver rounds, come in really handy. And just having a quick check of the price of silver, can I just give you a tip? It's under $50. 49. Let me refresh just to make sure that's right. $49.64 is the spot price for silver at the moment at ainsleyBullion.com.au. Now, it's under $50. The gold-silver ratio is and was most of the day sitting just over 100. It is now back just under 100 at 99.12. That's the the gold-silver index. So 99 ounces of silver, or 99.12 ounces of silver, will buy you 1 ounce of gold. Now, that rate has been up as high as 104 or 105 that I've seen recently. Now, back down under 100. That's good. Watch that figure. It's going to drop. As it drops, the spot price of silver will rise. Now, I had a bit of a look at one of the Ainsley bulletins today, and Chris Tipper, who is, I've got to say, one of the best analysts and presenters of this information in a way that is so easy to understand for a numpty like me. He's one of the executives on the Ainsley team, and you will have seen his face, and I'll have him on the show hopefully in the not too distant future to explain a bit more. He was explaining today that silver, if you'd have taken our advice in January and bought a bit of silver, between then and now, your silver investment has gone up 11.6%. And that's in 5 months. 11.6%. Has your super gone up 11.6% in the last 5 months? And with the banks asking about money and all that sort of stuff now, what are you going to do if you happen to be like me and coming up this year you're going to be able to gain access to your lump sum super? Your lump sum, I hope, is a lot better than mine. Mine's not going to trouble them too much, I don't think, but yours might. What are you going to do with it? Where are you going to put it? Are you going to put it in a bank and trust them? Or are you going to put it in a bank and answer all of the questions they ask of you? Are you going to jump through all of the hoops they place in front of you just so that you can spend your hard-earned, over your lifetime, retirement money in the way you want to? Are you going to give the bank that level of control over your life, given what we're seeing with the Commonwealth Bank now, and it won't be long before we start hearing these stories from others as well? Not going to be long at all before we hear stories from them as well. So maybe what you might want to do is thinking about getting your money out now and investing it short term into a self-managed super fund and putting it into something like these. Now, these are 1/10,000 ounce gold coins. They're a bit of a special deal happening at the moment, and you can pick them up for $564.96 at ainsley.com.au. But these are the most expensive ways to buy gold. I wouldn't recommend that to you, and if you had a bit of money, I'm sure Ainsley wouldn't recommend that to you either. They would suggest to buy your gold in a different manner. And while these are spectacular in every way, and the work on these minted coins is simply remarkable. The detail in them is amazing. But if you're simply in it for the investment, because you get nothing for the detail, you get nothing for how pretty the coin looks, or whether it's a collectible or whatever. When you go to sell this, the only thing people will be considering is the metal in it and its purity and its weight. They don't care how pretty it looks, because odds are it'll just get melted down and put into something else. So unless you're selling it back to Ainsley, of course, who will just put it back in the vaults and wait for the next person to come along. So what are you going to do? You're going to trust the banks with that level of control over your life, or are you going to withdraw your super and, rather than put it in a bank, do a deal to have that transfer made directly to an ainsley.bullion.com.au account, or an Ainsley Bullion account, or your bullion dealer of choice? But I've got to tell you, if you go with Ainsley, you'll get a discount if you use my name on anything you buy. And I don't think anybody else is offering you a discount, not even a 15th of a discount. So any discount I would have thought is good, and the more you're buying, the bigger that discount, I guess, gets, doesn't it? Which means the more you can buy. That was sort of the whole plan when we came up with this idea. So when you do that, you get to take control of your money, your wealth, and spend it when and as you please. Okay, you've got to find a place to hide your gold. It's probably easier to hide wealth in gold, because gold is easier to hide. There's not as much of it. It's fairly heavy. And if you find the right places, you can put an awful lot of money into a very small place, put it that way. Silver, on the other hand, at the moment at least, I know people who would need a forklift to get their silver stash anywhere where it could be, sold. And I'm not joking. You'd probably need 2 forklifts, and very big forklifts for some of these people. So the weight of silver is probably the other thing to be concerned about. But if you're like me and you can only afford silver, then you think of creative ways to keep it stashed when you've got it home. And I've often thought about doing a creative stash video, but as soon as you do something like that, you make every one of the stash places that you know about unusable, because every thief in the bloody world's going to come looking at what you're doing. And yeah, not good. JP Morgan have already tried to make a CBDC. They can't get it right. I think everybody's having a go at trying to make some form of digital currency. JP Morgan might be having more than 1 or 2 issues with what they're putting forward, probably because of the fact that they're JP Morgan and what they've been responsible for over the years. G'day, Rabbito. Nice to have you in. You forgot to put your name in, cunning linguist. That's... well, yeah, do it next time. done well. Hello, Sunflower. Lovely to have you in. And I'm just trying to catch up with what's happening in the chat. What super? You paid extra into it, John, and you still haven't got any. Well, shit, man. Somebody mismanaged your super account badly, and they will blame you for doing that. So I'm very sorry to hear. Whatever you've got left in it, mate, I'd be putting it into the gold and silver stuff in a freaking heartbeat. Speaking of which, I will be catching up with Michael Engerman tomorrow, and I will have that for you in tomorrow night's show. We will speak about what the market's been doing. It has been a little up. It has been a little down. One of the things that Chris Tipper was explaining today is that for the 5th year running, there is a 117 million ounce deficit between what silver is required or demanded from the manufacturers versus what they can produce. Mining is stagnant. They are not digging it out of the ground very much and not working hard to do it. Therefore, the price must go up. The price must go up. So why isn't it? Well, because it's being artificially suppressed, and we're seeing a lot of other movements in the market at the moment that are putting pressure on the market that should any one of those things collapse, not only will the banks go down, everything will go down. And unless you've got a little bit of folded cash or gold and silver to play with, you're not going to be able to use your card when you go to pay for your fuel or your groceries. You're not going to be able to have access to a banking machine probably for a little while until whatever the new system is comes into being. But I got doubts about that new system. So, and I think my doubts stem from not knowing enough about it. There have been some other interesting things happening in the world today. Ralph Babbitt, the former United Australia Party and now I think independent senator for Australia, has come out and praised a Kanye West song, Heil Hitler. Now, I'm no huge Kanye West fan, but apparently this actually has a sample of Adolf Hitler's voice in it. And Ralph has come out and said some rather interesting things. He's posted it up as his song of the week to his followers. And he just thinks it's a matter of personal taste. He likes it. But he also put in the same rant that he would much prefer to spend some time with neo-Nazis than the leftards that he has to deal with in politics. And I could understand that. He called them mentally ill and baby-killing leftards, left-wing Australians. So he has some very strong views, and he's probably the only person who's going to be speaking much truth in our aid over the next 4 years in that parliament. And while he may speak truth, he ain't going to be able to do much about the bullshit that's going to go down there. And I think it will go down, particularly in the superannuation thing. I was speaking with Mary Jane Liddickett earlier from Freedom FFS about this. She said they're getting a lot of calls about it. A lot of people are freaking out about it. And at the moment, it's a pretty standoff approach because it hasn't been legislated that they're going to start stripping money out of your account, out of your super. Unrealized gains, it's called, an unrealized gains tax. Now, it hasn't been passed through both houses. In fact, I don't even think the legislation's been written yet. So it's not going to happen anytime soon, like on the 1st of July or anything like that. I don't think they'll be able to get it written up and approved in that sort of time frame. But given the fact that we, Australians, apparently the majority of Australians have decided to give a huge majority to the Labor buffheads, so they can essentially do whatever the hell they like as fast as they like. Whether or not they choose to do this, we shall see. And nobody's yet wanted to stand up and and explained how Labor got elected on 28% of the vote. Nobody has been able to explain that one yet. And I'm asking, folks. I am asking a lot. All right. What else is going on in the world? Diddy is doing what Diddy does. He's carrying a Bible into church. He's into church. He's carrying a Bible into court. He's grey now. He's dressed nicely in his sweaters, and he's hearing some pretty wild testimony from the prosecution, or those people in the prosecution. Now, Cassie Ventura used to be married to, or was Diddy's girlfriend. Now, she's claiming she's been suicidal over some of the things that Diddy did or had done to her, that she suffers flashbacks and all sorts of things. Now, I believe that this is the lady that, if you've seen the video, and I won't play it, but there is video available on the internet of Sean P. Diddy Coombs in a towel beating and kicking the shit out of this woman, Cassie Ventura, in a hotel, outside a lift on a floor in a hotel, throwing her on the floor, belting her, kicking her. It's absolutely disgusting. He's come out and said all sorts of things, yeah, it was awful of me and I shouldn't have done it, and yada, 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 bullshit. But I don't think he was ever charged with anything there. In the last 24 hours or so, there has been another witness who has taken the stand. This is a male witness. His name, I think, was Jonathan Odie. Now, he claims that he was employed some 15 times by Sean to have sex with Cassie while Sean sat in the corner and played with himself. Now, he did make mention of the fact that quite often this would happen. Diddy and this fella Jonathan would go into a room, Cassie would be there, and Diddy would dictate what he wanted to see this fella do with his girlfriend. And this fella was apparently a sort of porn star as well, works for Chippendales and all that sort of stuff. And he went into some detail about, the things that Diddy would tell him to do. And why did Cassie, put up with it and all this sort of stuff? Don't think ever really got asked. Or did at one stage. She said she wanted to make him happy. I'm telling you, some of these salacious details, and there's a lot more. You can go and find it out yourself if you so desire. But I would ask you to bear in mind what the charges are, what he is actually charged with. So far, while salacious and, some people would say gross or depraved or debauched or immoral or whatever, while some of that activity may not appeal to any of us, there is a section of the community where, swapping your partner is okay. And more to the point, it's not illegal. Now, it becomes illegal if one of the parties is coerced into being involved in this. And this is what I'm hoping the prosecution are trying to set up. Because Diddy is facing 3 charges. One of those is a slavery charge, but it involves trafficking a person over a state border for the purposes of sex work. It's called the Mann Act. Another one of his charges is coercing sexual favors out of people. I forget how it's actually phrased, but it amounts to that. And there is a third charge, which eludes me at the moment. But none of these charges have actually been addressed so far in anything the prosecution is putting forward or the witnesses that they're bringing forward. Now, I heard an analysis of this today, and pardon me, as difficult as it might seem for many people to accept, this can really only play out one of 3 ways. The first of which is the way we hope it would play out, and that the prosecution is at some point going to introduce the coercion or the blackmailing side. And they did try with Cassie Ventura. She claimed that Diddy had pictures and videos and all that sort of stuff, and he said he was going to show them around if she didn't do what he wanted. So that is a form of coercion. Posting those things to the internet, showing those things off, though, that's not really what he's been charged with. He's been charged with sort of more serious crimes. So I think watch this space. I think the prosecution are either going to introduce this massive, call it spying evidence, the blackmailing evidence or the capture of it at some point, or they're leaving their case wide open for appeal because all of this salacious, immoral, debauched testimony that we're hearing at the moment has no bearing on the case, but the jury has been allowed to hear it. And what it's doing, it's setting up a mind frame for the jury that unless, this testimony is somehow borne out to actually fit the charges, there's no real point to have it other than to give them a way out on appeal. And take that one step further. What if a deal has been done where much of what is coming out gets wiped under the carpet, for the want of a better term, and on appeal, old mate gets off completely and walks away scot-free. And this could be done by design. Some interesting names were brought up in the trial today. One of the other people that has been involved in giving testimony is a gentleman who walked into one of the Trump properties and shot up a chandelier. Now, it was at the time, the media told the story it was just a crazy guy doing crazy shit and nobody paid much attention to it. But now it appears that this is the same guy, Mr. Odie, who at that time in a police interview claimed to be P. Diddy's sex slave. And he wanted to warn Donald Trump that they were trying to kill him, that Diddy was Illuminati, black Illuminati, and they were going to kill him publicly by shooting him just like JFK. And he wanted to warn Trump that they were going to do that. When did this happen? In 2018 it happened. What happened? Well, they did try and shoot him. Nothing truer about that. And they missed him by that much. So that was an interesting story. But that same bloke, in his interview with police after that event, also claimed that Diddy was associated with the Clintons, the Obamas, and the Bushes, and went on to explain exactly how the satanic rites that they perform, the acts, both sexual and torture, that they perform on animals and children. Went on to explain all of that, explained it all. And that Diddy was a large, ring in that chain, large loop in that chain, large link, that's what I'm trying to say, in that chain. Along with the Clintons, the Obamas, and the Bushes. Now, when does this get introduced into testimony in the court is the question for mine. Maybe overnight tonight we might see a little bit more. But it is interesting that his entire interview, this Odie's interview, has been released and is publicly available. If you want to go and watch the whole police interview, you can. And yes, I guess at first watch you would think he's coming across as a bit of a madman, and that's the way it was portrayed. But today, or yesterday, Cassie Ventura qualified and said it was correct. Everything that he said about sleeping, having to, have sex with her on at least 15 occasions where he was paid, and Diddy sat in the corner with his Tootsie Roll. I had to look it up. That's a Tootsie Roll. That's his Tootsie Roll-sized penis, is the quote that's come out of the court. Now, as near as I can find, that's the large Tootsie Roll, and I hope for his sake it's not the little Tootsie, because that's a tiny Tootsie, if I have to say so myself. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's not about the size, it's what you do with it. That's what the girls always tell us. So, yes, he played there with his Tootsie Roll, while this porn star would do what appears to be some pretty adventurous things with Diddy's girlfriend. So that case is just going to get filthier and filthier and filthier. I have an interesting bit of news. You've probably seen it already about the AEC. Now, an election worker took home 1,866 votes in a box, in a ballot box. The AEC have found that out. They say, oh, it's no problem. Those votes had already been counted. By whom and where? And why does that matter? Why did this person think it was okay to take them home? What were they doing with them at home? Were they just sitting in a corner there? What else did you find in their home? Are they a kleptomaniac? Do they have a problem? And how many more are missing? Not necessarily from that booth, but from booths all over Australia. My understanding is from a number of states that there are huge discrepancies in what they say was counted versus what has actually been counted versus what is even there to be counted. There has been some skullduggery, chicanery, shitfuckery going on with our most recent election, folks. But somehow Labor get elected with a majority. Blows me away. Bit like this bit of news out of Victoria. The magistrates in Victoria are now being taught how to avoid having pedophiles deported. Not just pedophiles, but serious criminals who have committed crimes in Victoria and are immigrants. Now, under current Australian laws, if you're an immigrant and you commit a serious crime, you will be sent to jail, and at the end of your jail term, you will be sent back to your country of origin, and your Australian citizenship or whatever piece of paper you're here under will be torn up. Now, this can be avoided if magistrates know exactly what to say and how to punish these criminals in a way that does not trigger the federal rule to kick them out of the country. People of Victoria, why the hell do you still live there? Very shortly, it's going to become a very, very unlivable state. And because I know the strength of the people of Victoria, the good people of Victoria, they won't stand for the bullshit that's happening on the streets in Melbourne and in other smaller cities and towns outside of the main part of town. They're not going to put up with it forever. They will fight back. There will be problems. And then who's going to get blamed for I know who's going to get blamed. It'll be us, the racists. Why? Because we don't like people running around waving machetes at us and demanding that we take our shoes off and give them to us, along with a wallet and a watch and anything else. Why? Because the bastard standing at the end of our bed holding a weapon, a baseball bat, a machete, a knife, or a gun in the middle of the night, demanding your car keys, isn't going to get deported if they catch him, isn't going to get sent back to whatever smoking shithole they came from. They will be allowed to stay here and not appreciate the benefits and the rewards and the opportunities that living in Australia brings you. So I think it's absolutely disgusting. And there are changes in the jibbity jab laws too. The spicy dart in Singapore. Guess what? They're back to the M word and jail for those of us that refuse it. And that comes only days after the evil scientist, do we call him that? He's not a scientist. He's not a doctor. All he is a mass murderer masquerading as a philanthropist. He's visited, and the people in Singapore are not very keen on this idea either. Apparently, there is a fair amount of pushback, which actually surprises me because, with the greatest of respect to Asian nations, they're not really known for pushing back. Malaysia, when things get out of hand in Malaysia, they push back pretty solidly. But in China, you get run over by a tank if you push back, or you get beaten to death by the army. And that hasn't worked out terribly well for those people who've tried in the past. There are a lot of Chinese in Singapore. There are a lot of Malaysians too, a lot of Thais, a lot of Koreans. But what's that going to mean for people who are flying and transiting Singapore, going through Changi Airport? Does that mean you're going to be stuck on their territory because you're unjabbed and you're in Changi? Well, not the airport, the prison. I don't know if they call it that prison anymore. I think pretty sure that Changi Airport's built over the old Changi prison. But they'll have a place for you. Or will you just not be allowed to transit? Will they pull you up? Will you have to sit in a special room? I don't know. We have a moron in our midst here in Australia. Her name is Marine Faruqi. She's upset that the scale of what's happening in Pakistan is difficult to grasp. 33 million people are affected, more than the population of Australia. The $2 million of aid committed by the Australian government is insulting. It's nowhere near our fair share. Australia needs to do more. What the hell is our fair share of aid or whatever else going to Pakistan for? They got a pretty good cricket team. India and Pakistan have been fighting forever. They've both got nuclear weapons of varying different capabilities. I suspect the Indian is probably a better version. They're both mad as cut snakes, fighting over an area, Kashmir, which is not known for its riches, I didn't think. Maybe beauty and tourist potential, but I don't know. Maybe there's a lot of gold in them there hills. I don't know. But it's a land grab, one way or the other. For many years, they've been able to get by just firing the odd angry shot. But now they want to get serious about it. Trump announces a ceasefire, and it falls apart. And now we've got some whinging, bitching thing from God knows where coming out and telling us that we should pay our fair share of whatever shit is going down in Pakistan. How is that fair? Why, our fair share is fuck all. There are some stupid people in the world. And we elect most of them. I think that one was at some stage. We might have got rid of it this time around, but lucky, I guess. The CIA have been releasing some very interesting papers. I will stick a link up. I didn't put it in here, but I'll get a link up on VOFHQ if you want to go and have a look through what amounts to be thousands of documents that have been released, mostly unredacted. This one is a very interesting report back in 1955, and it is the report of Hitler departing Colombia for Argentina. Now, Hitler, of course, the world was told that he died in a bunker in Berlin, shot Ava, his wife, in the head, shot himself in the head. We've seen pictures. But that doesn't appear to be the case. It seems he went to Colombia to begin with and spent the better part of 10 years in Colombia. And as the CIA knew back in 1955, was then moved on to Argentina, where he lived to be 93, I want to say. There is also some interesting pictures floating around, and I haven't had time to check them, so that's why I don't have them loaded up to show you. But there are some pictures being floated around of Adolf Hitler and a young boy in a young SS uniform. That boy is being named as Pope Leo. Now, what relationship is that boy to Hitler? That is an interesting question. And now that I've seen the time, I might leave that for another night, or feel free to pop off and have a look yourself. Very quickly, I wanted to mention this. It's a very impressive rocket. Don't you think that's a nice looking rocket? It's a very impressive rocket. It's called the Eris rocket, and it was due to launch today. In fact, they had a launch window from 7:30 this morning until 5:30 this afternoon. It weighs 34 ton, this rocket, and it was going to tear out from far north Queensland, Bowen to be exact, from the Bowen Space Launch Centre. This is the map that was issued to warn aviators that there was a corridor that they needed to avoid if they happened to be flying north or south, should the launch occur. And at this stage of the game, it appears that the rocket from Gilmore Space Technologies, an Australian company looking to launch the first Australian-made and built rocket into, depending on your stance, space or the dome, and doing it from just outside Bowen in North Queensland. There was no live stream today of the event, and Gilmore Technologies, Space Technologies say there is no plan to give it a live stream. There could be a variety of reasons for that. That could be because it might blow up on the pad and they don't want to look silly doing it. It might not blow up on the pad and it still might not lift off. They might look silly doing it. There's an awful lot of government money tied up in this particular rocket launch as well. So they won't want the world to be having a look and seeing them look stupid. That's the first theory. The second theory is that none of those should impact the fact of a live stream. There are plenty, including the New Zealanders, who live streamed their first. Tesla live streamed theirs. It makes it transparent. It makes it real. It makes it wonderful. I saw a lot of questions and comments in some videos on their Facebook page and on their own website. People asking, will I be able to see this from Proserpine? I would have thought the answer to that would be yes. It's a rocket, and depending on the cloud cover and whatnot on the day, then yes, you should absolutely be able to see it from Proserpine. In fact, I reckon if you squinted and had a pretty good look north, you'd probably see it from Mackay. Those rockets are going to be bright, very bright. However, for whatever reason, maybe it was very dark up there today, or maybe it did launch and nothing has actually come through, because I can tell you that even as I scan the latest bullshit news pieces now, there is nothing to do with the launch of our rocket today. So Australians can be proud that we have a very, very, very nice looking rocket. I've got to say that's a very spectacular looking rocket in Bowen, ready to go. Their launch window now is gone. I don't understand launch windows. They would have to fuel that rocket before they fired it. That would take some time before they fired it. So my guessing is today up there, at least it wasn't optimal, or what do they say, nominal conditions to light the wick and set the thing on fire. I will try and keep abreast of what happens with it. They will launch it hopefully in the next few days, or it'll blow up or whatever. But whatever it's going to do, it's no doubt going to keep more than one or two idiots off the road over the weekend. At least they'll be pulled over to the side watching the big starring flying thing in the sky that makes a great deal of noise. Have yourself a good night tonight, folks. As I said, tomorrow I'm going to catch up with the boss of Ainsley Bullion, Michael. We'll see what's going on in the world of precious metals. And my suggestion is buy. Take note of the price today. If you wake up tomorrow morning and the price now is what did I say it was before? $49.64. Refresh. $49.89 it is now. So in the time we've been talking on the show, it's gone up maybe 50 cents. Might be worth sneaking over to ainsleyBullion.com.au now and grabbing yourself a bit of silver just between you, me, and the gatepost. It's a hell of a lot better than getting out on the roads and being stuck out there with all those dickheads, folks. Trust me.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!